This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Thursday, April 11th, 2024, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, the latest edition of the Iowa Ag News headlines, and then I will be joined by Troy Bauer of BASF to learn about the new website to help soybean growers deal with soybean cyst nematode via SCN sampling results at scnfields.com. It is time now for our closing market summary.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
We're joined at the end of another trading day by Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net. Kaden, what did we see happen with the grains today here on a WASDE report day?
Yeah, plenty of data coming out today. Certainly WASDE report, export sales this morning. CONAB had their monthly report as well. But all in all, to say, corn beans both not faring all that well. Both closed down about 5.5 to 6 cents on corn and beans, both on the front month. So, relatively that's a worse day for corn than beans. I would almost argue they had a better report out of the WASDE than beans did, but not closing very well. Nothing to show that.
Kaden, let's talk about some of the things that we had circled going into that WASDE report today. I know one of them was what they were going to do with the numbers for Brazil, the production numbers of the soybeans, and turns out no change from the USDA. Did that surprise you today?
It did. Maybe it shouldn't, but it did, just in that, the USDA is still quite a bit higher on Brazil production than CONAB is. CONAB had their numbers come out today as well, and they stayed about the same as they were last month. But if I remember correctly, they're around a 146 plus a decimal. USDA today's around a 155 for Brazil. So be interesting to see where those two numbers wind up here as we, the next couple of months. I guess maybe somewhere in the middle, but continuing to see USDA not want to touch their number too badly.
And then what did we learn today for the U.S. ending stocks numbers and what we're looking at there for corn and soybeans?
Yeah, on the corn side, we're expecting carryout to come down about 70 million, and it came down 50. So, I guess you take it. They increased demand overall by about 50. So not all bad there. On the bean side, really was expecting a pretty quiet report, but wound up increasing carryout 25 million. Most of that came from exports being cut. So that one, I guess, is the only big outlier, and I'm not even sure I would call it big, but out of all the data we got today, that was the one that I guess was the most unexpected. Although, like I said, the corn market really reacted rather poorly as compared to the bean market with those numbers.
So crystal ball question for you. Now, the rest of this week, are we going to see trading off of this report? If there wasn't really much to trade off of, or are we already going to turn the page and start talking almost exclusively about planning and planning progress?
I think you're exactly right. I think planting progress is all the market really cares about right now. There's some of these WASDE reports certain months that are typically fairly quiet, and I think the market almost treats it as a box to check. Okay, we got the numbers, they're fairly reasonable. Let's, kind of pitch it out the window and go on about what we really care about. So certainly weather and planting progress is what's going to matter here over the next month and a half. I think that's what the market's going to be keyed on pretty closely, and those planting progress reports certainly going to matter.
Let's go over to the other side of the ag marketplace and the livestock complex. What happened today with the protein sector?
Yeah, cattle finally having a bounce back here, about $1 higher on fats and feeders both. Continuing to slide though, I do think there's still some susceptibility there, especially depending on what comes out of, the bird flu story. Continue to see headlines out of that. I think you at least want some puts under that market. I think, just in case we continue to slide there. Hogs really fairly quiet after yesterday's big reversal. Hogs going to close up about 25 cents or so today on the June contract. So fairly quiet. I mean, all three in green. It's nice as compared to the grains, but nothing that I feel overly confident about in all three as far as being bullish goes.
So for the hog market, kind of looking at the bigger picture, we know that the headlines have been working against the cattle market. Has that been the sole reason that the hog market has moved so much to the upside, or have there been some other factors?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was more money flow and outside sources as opposed to just purely the fundamentals from the hog market. If you look at it from a technical standpoint as well, we were making contract highs and had done so for 3 or 4 days. Finally found some, reason to sell off, if you will, from those outside factors and saw a big reversal. But yesterday's market, when we reversed, we went right down to the 10-day moving average and it held, and we kind of flirted with either side of that today. But all in all, like you said, hog market's been extremely strong. Certainly some continued strength there that we've seen. I don't think it's any reason to necessarily panic or freak out like I think the cattle market could be. But at the same time, when you're making contract highs, that you certainly open up some susceptibility to a sell off like we saw yesterday.
Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net joining us here today. Kaden, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
Yeah, just go to our website, agmarket.net. You can reach anyone from our team there. Certainly could be a good idea to get set up here while before planting really kicks off in full swing. I know it's hard to watch markets while we're farming, but a lot of times those are good sales to make. So get a hold of us now, and then we can try to help the best we can when that time comes.
Kaden, thanks so much for the time here today. And you are a farmer yourself also, so best of luck as you get out there in the fields here, hopefully very soon.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. We've been plenty wet, so it may be a little later than I like, but it'll all work out.
Thank you to Kaden Sweeney of agmarket.net for our closing market summary. Let's turn now to the closing numbers, which can be found under the market tab of our website at iowaagnet.com.
May corn closed down 5.5 at 428 3/4. May soybeans closed down 5.5 at 11.59 1/4. May soybean meal up $4.70 at 335.60. May soybean oil down $1.58 at 46.02. Chicago wheat down 6 3/4 at 551 3/4. Minneapolis wheat down 14 3/4 at 637 even, and Kansas City hard red wheat down 11 1/4 at 583 1/4. May oats up 10 even at 347 3/4. On the Merc, April live cattle up $1.17 at 180.25. April feeder cattle up 90 cents at 239.17. May lean hogs up 75 cents at 97.30. May pork cutout unchanged at 104.42. And Class 3 milk down 17 cents at 15.39.
That's our closing market coverage for today. It's time now to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. And up next, I will have the latest Iowa Ag News headlines.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
You're watching Ag Matters PM, and it is time now for the latest Iowa Ag News headlines. House Agriculture Committee Chairman Glenn G.T. Thompson says, quote, "Without a doubt, the Farm Bill will be out of his committee by Memorial Day." Speaking exclusively to AgriPulse, the Pennsylvania Republican says he found a way to fund commodity program changes. Getting a 5-year farm bill across the finish line remains the priority for Ag, following last year's 1-year extension of the 2018 Farm Bill. However, lawmakers in the Senate, like Iowa's Chuck Grassley, are not optimistic. Grassley said to reporters this week, quote, "What they need is a 5-year extension, but I'm very pessimistic about there being an agreement in the Senate on a bipartisan farm bill this year." End quote. While the House may ultimately pass a bill, Grassley adds, quote, "I don't think you should assume that that's got much to do with what's happening in the United States Senate." Undersecretary Alexis M. Taylor, native of Iowa, will lead a Department of Agriculture agribusiness trade mission to New Delhi, India. That will take place on April 22nd through the 25th. The delegation of 47 businesses, organizations, and officials from 11 state departments of agriculture speaks volumes about the export sales opportunity the world's most populous country represents for U.S. food and agricultural products. According to the USDA, Taylor, last year, India reduced tariff requirements for U.S. poultry products, vegetables, fruits, and tree nuts, strengthened the agribusiness trade relationship between the United States and India. And while on the trade mission, participants will engage in business-to-business meetings, site visits to new trade linkages, strengthen existing partnerships, observe U.S. products in the marketplace, and discover the latest Indian consumer food trends. And on today's show, I am joined by Troy Bauer of BASF to learn about the new website to help soybean growers deal with soybean cyst nematode. And they can do so via SCN sampling results, which are found at scnfields.com.
scnfields.com. It's a really it's a new website that we've launched at BASF, part of our portfolio for digital solutions to help support growers to increase their profitability and just to raise awareness around this very damaging pest. It kind of automates data, it creates some actionable insights for the growers out there, kind of help improve their decision making around this pest and managing for this pest going forward. So it's a website that they can go and they can enter like a zip code or their town, and then they can kind of see the SCN pressure that's occurring around them. And once they see that, it may pique their interest to go in and take some soil samples of their own and improve their SCN management strategy. So it's a really great opportunity for growers to see what's going on around them.
The sharing of data between local growers makes the information available very helpful to other growers' management strategies, says Bauer.
This is all part of an effort of BASF to work with growers out in their own communities to collect that information. And then once we collect that information, we're able to put that out there on the website for everyone to see. And as we know with SCN, it's a very damaging pest. It's the number one pest for soybean growers in the Midwest. And we estimate that it causes about $1.5 billion of loss every year. So it's something that growers need to pay attention to. And this is just a digital tool to help them improve their management strategy around this pest.
Once a grower has detected SCN in their fields, it is time to develop a full management plan to deal with the yield threat.
So this is information that's out there that really allows them to see the level of SCN that's present in their area. Now, that may not relate specifically to their own local field, but they can kind of see what's going on in the area. And this would then, if they've got more concerns, then my encouragement would be is they need to go out and soil sample and really understand what's going on in their own fields, and then develop a management strategy. Because based on the information we've collected, nearly 80% of the fields that we've sampled have had SCN in them, and nearly 60% of the fields are losing significant yields due to the soybean cyst nematode. And as we know, SCN is kind of that silent yield robber. We really don't see any above ground effects, even up to 30% yield loss with that pest. So we really need to understand what's going on in every grower's field.
He says scnfields.com can help a grower to stay ahead of SCN in their area and try to better prepare.
Absolutely. Growers need to pay attention to SCN in their own fields, and once it's detected in their fields, develop a great management strategy. And the steps to kind of follow along that is once it's detected in your fields, make sure you're rotating away from soybeans. And so many growers do that very well by getting into non-host crops such as corn and other crops out there. Also, when you plant soybeans, ensure that you have genetic resistance in your soybeans like PI 88788 and peaking sour cyst resistance, and you need to rotate those sources of resistance. Many people are talking about peaking sour cyst resistance, and that does a great job, but you can't just rely on that. You need to rotate back and forth. And then kind of the third leg of that stool is to make sure you use an effective seed treatment, such as an Olivo product that actually kills nematodes at every stage of their life cycle. So growers really need to develop a active management strategy to manage their SCN in their fields.
And while crop rotation from soybeans to corn can help to suppress SCN, it does not entirely deal with the problem. A full management strategy is needed.
The SCN eggs can really last in the soil for a long time. And the studies that many of the leading nematologists have done around the nation show that you can decrease SCN eggs in the soil about 50% that first year. And then another 20 to 25% the following year. And then those eggs get really recalcitrant and they can last a long time after that. So once it's present in your field, they're going to be there pretty much forever. And you need to have a really good management strategy to mitigate the effects on the yield in your fields.
To find out more, simply head to the new website from BASF.
Yeah, I would just encourage growers to go out to scnfields.com and kind of understand a little bit more what's going on in their area. And if they have questions about this, I would encourage them to call their trusted agronomic advisor or call up your local BASF representative. We would love to help you develop a management plan around this very significant pest.
Thank you to Troy Bauer with BASF for joining today's episode. And that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And you can find our video content and previous episodes of AM/PM on the YouTube channel. Don't forget as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. On behalf of Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.